Night of Anime here, bringing you my review on Black Clover Episode 2. And the main bulk of this, right off the bat I'm going to say, the main bulk of this chapter was a flashback, and it was the backstory on Asta and Yuno's childhood. And the thing okay, anime onlys right now, I'm going to tell you guys right off the bat that the bulk of this episode was actually filler. Like, the backstory was actually greatly cut down in... So it was actually great. Wasn't as big. The flashback into Yuno and Astas past wasn't as big in the manga, but the thing that is good here is that in a way it was filler done right, because I feel that this, even though the bulk of this was filler in a way, it did feel like it did give us more clarity on Asta and Yuno's backstory and childhood and whatnot and what it was like. So in a way, it's almost one of those things where it is filler done right. And even though it was filler, I'm hoping if it's filler like this, I'm happy with it. I'm just praying that Studio knows that it's best if you don't flaunt that shit like they did with Naruto. I'm hoping it is. I'm hoping, but yeah. But aside from that, I did feel that within this backstory, there's a lot of good moments that in the future I think will make Black Clover slightly more unique. The first thing and most important thing I think to me is we do see a genuine in Asta and Yuno's backstory. We see a genuine friendship between both Asta and Yuno, and it's not so much them being in their present. In who they are in the present, it's not so much them being rivals out of their differing ideologies, but simply because they do have a genuine respect for one another. And what's even more interesting about their particular rivalry / friendship is that not only do they have a genuine respect for each other, but in most cases, it's the rival that serves as... In most cases we've seen of shonen manga and anime, it's the rival that serves as the inspiration for the main character. But in the case of what we learned from this flashback and who Yuno and Asta are as characters, we learned that, in a way, Yuno was more inspired by Asta, because in this backstory we learned that Yuno, he had zero fucking confidence in himself. Like, he had no confidence in himself, he had no belief in himself at all, and it was through Asta's actions and through what Asta did, and through Asta's seeing Asta work hard, even though he didn't have any magic, and just seeing Asta, and seeing Asta even stand up for him, that said that through that, it was through those actions that Yuno was inspired by Asta in order to become a better person. And from there, it was even just that a mutual respect for one another was born. So, yeah, it really sounds complicated, I guess, the way I'm explaining it, but honestly, like, it is one of those things where I think I know the whole rival main character thing is a strong cliche, but here, I think it is unique. I want to say it's done any better than any other shonen manga, but it is unique in its own way, and I think it will serve as one of the bulwark of the story, I think. So yeah. Now, and of course, in every shonen backstory, there has to be some sort of tragic element in order to promote the main characters. And what's interesting here is that the whole pain and the tragedy of the backstory, it isn't necessarily linked to the main characters, but to the environment, and the environment aspect. It just doesn't affect the main characters, but everyone too. Like, it's when we see that guy who was kicked out of the bar for not having money, and was so desperate he robbed Yuno of his necklace, only to have Asta come in and later fight the man off. Hence what I mentioned earlier, is that, like, in a situation like that, it really makes me curious, like, okay, how deep of a gap is there between those how deep of a gap is there between those of higher status and those who aren't. Like in this case, it was just a poor dude who was robbing an orphan. But it makes me wonder if Yuno was a noble, would if it wasn't Yuno who was walking by and he didn't. What if he robbed a noble? Is what I'm asking here. Like, if it was a noble who was in Asta's place, like would it like I'm sure the noble probably would have been able to fight him off, but it makes as people in this world like rank is based on the magic you have, but it really like if that had been a noble, like what would he have done more than just try and rob him? Because I think this, even though very subtle, I think it does give us a bit of a glimpse as to what as the difference between as the different as to what the lower class of people pro, pro, do probably think of those who have higher wealth and higher status, especially higher wealth and higher status. I mean, the dude just basically accosted Yuno because I want to assume for the most part he probably misinterpreted Yuno as some kind of rich kid for having that necklace. So yeah, even though it was a misunderstanding, it did give you a very interesting clue as to how deep the hatred and the discrimination of the two higher and lower classes of this world are. Like it is pretty bad in many respects when you think about it. Now, like I said, the majority of this chapter was a flashback, but we do get a little bit of action near the end with Asta fighting with his new weapon. And what's interesting about Astas Weapon is that after Asta took that one big swipe, the magic change the guy was using basically disappeared. So first thought on that is now that Asta's sword can negate magic, and the biggest question I have now is what are that sword's limitations? Because to its power, because I want to believe that Black Clover is not going to be like Fairy Tail. I want to believe that right now because, and I hope whatever limitations that sword has, we do find about them soon. Because if not, well, we're already headed through an overpowered main character mess like like what Fairy Tail was. But like I said, I'm one overnighted and said that the mangaka was smart enough to actually add a limitation on there because I want to assume it isn't OP as fuck. I'm hoping for that right now. But yeah, I mean, I want to assume one weakness is that in order to use the sword, Asta has to be in a certain range in order for it to work. That's my prediction of what the weakness of the sword is that Asta needs to be in a certain range of a person's magic for it to work. But yeah, that's just my one theory. But I'm, but yeah, who knows? But yeah. Also, like one final thing I do want to it's one final thing I do want to note to end this review on is that uh, we see in the backstory that Asta, like, it was actually apparent from episode 1 too, but in this backstory it is reinforced that Asta had a little crush on on the nun or the sister. Now, and people might not think too highly about this, might not think of this big a deal as Asta's main focus will still be on becoming the Wizard King and whatnot, but it's little moments like that too that make me say it's good to know that at least Asta actually has feelings and emotions a boy that age and his current age, of course, will have. Like we've pretty much all been through that. We've all been through that phase where we were young and we had an older crush. So it's good to know that Asta is gonna have those moments too, and that he's not this whole Messiah, I will die for your sins type character. Like it is good to know that one thing that does give me hope with that is that Shonen Jump is kind of opening their eyes a bit and saying that these whole Messiah characters who don't even know what a fucking crush is, or any of these like human emotions people would have are legitimately relatable. Like, and that's not a knock against Naruto. I guess like Naruto is still very much one of my favorite anime, but it's like yeah, I, I like. I'm really glad that Shonen Jump is opening up and realizing that we do kind of relate more to these characters who don't so much see who do have these human emotions and quirks and whatnot. So emotions and quirks and thoughts and whatnot. So yeah, it is good to know that Shonen Jump is opening up these ideas more and the anime world in general too. Yeah. But yeah, guys, that's my review. If you enjoyed the video, like, comment, subscribe, or follow me on Twitter or Facebook. Death Knight MMA, signing off. Later, guys.